Libya is located in North Africa. The bordering countries are Tunisia, Algeria, Niger, Chad, Sudan, Egypt. The big cities are Tripoli, which is the capital, Benghazi, Misrata. Libya has access to the Mediterranean Sea. The major landforms and features are plains, plateaus, and depressions. What are the major products/economic activity of the country? They mostly mine oil. Illegal immigration flows from Libya towards European shores increase particularly in the summer due to the improved weather conditions, said Al-Marhani. Thousands of illegal immigrants choose to cross the Mediterranean towards European shores from Libya due to the state of chaos in the country following the 2011 uprising. Our plan is based primarily on activating desert patrols, especially in the south and southwest of the country, from which most immigrants infiltrated illegally through borders with neighboring countries, he said.
Nearly 97% of Libya is Sunni Muslim. This sect of the Muslim religion believes that the religious leader should be elected non-descendant of Muhammad. Other religions that make up the other 3% include Christianity, Judaism, and Adabi, another sect of Islam. In Libya, the language is Arabic, much like the Holy Book of Islam, the Quran. Education in Libya begins with primary education, which is both free and required by law for kids ages 6 through 15. Libya has a HDI result of 0.716, which has increased from 0.681 since 1990. This puts Libya at 102nd on the HDI data list, putting it in with countries such as Dominican Republic and Belize. Libya has happiness index result of 5.566, beginning in 70th in the world. The life expectancy in Libya is 71 years with an average of 13.4 years of schooling. Infant mortality rate in Libya is about 10.8 for every 1,000 children born.
Libya is currently going through a civil war, a war between West and East Libya. There's a scramble of power, and instead of people stepping up to lead their country, people are fighting for complete control. This is what caused the civil war. The current Prime Minister of Libya is Fayez al-Sarraj. He's on a mission to guide Libya to success. He wants to fix many things, including taking care of immigrants and easing their suffering. When former dictator Gaddafi was in charge, Libya was not a free country. After Fayez al-Sarraj's election in 2015, Libya became partly free and went from a dictatorship to an electoral democracy. Libya is a very corrupt nation. Out of 175 countries, they are the 171st most corrupt.
Libya's economy depends all upon revenues from their largest industry, the petroleum sector, which is responsible for over 95% of export earnings and 60% of GDP. These oil revenues and a small population have given Libya one of the highest nominal per capita GDP in Africa. Nearly 40% of Libya's 6.4 million people live below the poverty line with no benefit from Libyan oil reserves, which are the 9th largest in the world. Libya's main exports consist of crude oil, refined petroleum, natural gas, and chemicals. Libya exported 19.72 billion in 2017. Libya's main imported goods consist of machinery, transport equipment, semi-finished goods, food, and consumer products. Libya imported 27.15 billion in 2013. Libya's biggest industry and main source of money is the petroleum industry. Libya's government is corrupt. They make a large amount of money from their oil and petroleum industry, but they don't give it back to the people. This is why more than 1/3 of the population is at or below the poverty line. But Libya's poverty rate wasn't always like this. In 1980, Libya's per capita income as a percentage was of the U.S. was 104.6%. But in 1985, it dropped significantly to 46.13%. Corruption. One issue facing Libya is Libya itself. Corruption in Libya is at an all-time high. The government is using the money they get from oil, which makes up 90% of Libya's revenues, and buying weapons or keeping the profits for themselves, instead of giving it back to the people. The government wants to buy weapons with the money they make from oil. The government officials are being pressured to buy weapons from France because of all the conflict happening there. Libya's government abuses its power by keeping all oil sector profits, which make up 90% of the country's revenues and 60% of the country's GDP. Corruption goes hand in hand with Libya's poverty line and why it's so high with Libya, having the largest oil reserves in Africa and the 9th largest oil reserves in the world. It doesn't make sense for the country to be so poor.
In the eastern Libyan city of Benghazi early on Friday killed at least 7 people, including a girl, and wounded 20. A security official said the blast, the latest to rock Libya's second largest city, took place on a commercial street full of people behind the city's largest hotel. Benghazi is under the control of the self-styled Libyan National Army, led by Marshal Khalifa Hifter, whose forces and supporters control the east of the country. Hifter launched a military campaign in Benghazi in May 2014. vowing to wipe out Islamist militias. It came in response to the bombings and assassinations being blamed on Islamic militias. Last year, Hifter announced that Benghazi had been liberated, but the city remains a trouble spot, and bombings and attacks are common. In January, a twin car bombing near a mosque in Benghazi's Salamani neighborhood killed at least 35 people. Libya is now split between rival governments in the east and west, each backed by an array of militias. Hifter is allied with the east-based administration that is at odds with the UN-backed government based in the capital, Tripoli.
People for the part have been trying to find new life in Europe for a long time, and war in countries like Nigeria and poverty in many countries in Africa have been influenced people's decisions to try to find a better life. The source of CNN says slave trade auctions have been happening at 9 locations in Zouari, Zabarta, Garyan, Sabah, Castello Verde, Kabah, Al-Urbayan, Gadames, Al-Zatinan, all around the country of Libya. There is a huge possibility that there are more locations where the auctions occur. Refugees who are fleeing from conflict or economic immigration in search of a better life and opportunity in Europe are getting caught, turned into slaves, or even held as hostages for ransom. The issue of slavery and slave auctions related to Libya, as it's happening in Libya in many towns and cities. There's not an exact number of how many people are slaves and how many people are being auctioned, but like CNN video said, the auctions happen 2 to 3 times in a month in many cities and towns.
The biggest issue facing Libya is illegal migration from the west, east, and South Africa. There are about 1.5 million legal immigrants in Libya currently trying to get out to Europe and to get a better life. All of the routes that these immigrants take intersect in Libya. From there, they cross the Mediterranean Sea and arrive in Italy. This flood of people trying to escape Africa causes the population to skyrocket, which hurts their economy because they now have to take care of much more people. However, the biggest issue is that some of these immigrants decide to stay in Libya and look for work after escaping wherever they came from.
Big issue because now, instead of people temporarily residing in Libya before leaving Europe, many people are now deciding to stay in Libya, which leads to less economic power for the people already there. As the number of illegal immigrants in Libya rises, so will the number of new Libyans, ultimately causing the overpopulation of Libya. Solution? Build a big wall around the borders of Libya. The wall will have to be 2,700 miles long. Libya is a very poor country, so it would be nearly impossible to finance such a wall. Because these immigrants also cross through countries like Algeria, Sudan, Egypt, and Mali to get to Libya, they can help finance our borders. If these same immigrants flood these countries, then it hurts their economy, so they will want to end the issue by financing the wall. We can also fix the issue with Italy, where all the immigrants are going, to build a more secure border and increase security to limit the number of immigrants arriving in Libya. They would help finance the project because it benefits them a lot, and it benefits Libya as well because now the immigrants have no business being in Libya. As this helps the economy of Libya, and this helps the economy of Libya as well, as eliminated the threat of illegal immigrants in Italy and Libya. Another possible solution is to start executing punishments for these immigrants and everybody helping them.
Those who will help them receive a fine as a punishment, and immigrants will be deported as a first strike. Second strike is a 2 years in jail. Second strike for the helpers will be a 2 years in jail as well. This will send a message to immigrants trying to cross illegally to Italy and Libya, and hopefully extinguish them as a threat. The first step to getting a solution for illegal immigrants is to wait for the presidential election in December, and from there we will decide what to do.
Mr. Ambassador, we urge you to limit the number of immigrants crossing into Libya and make Libya a brighter place.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.